Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Erudition Network. Welcome to our Saturday evening weekly wrap up. Wanted to do this wrap up this week. We weren't able to get with you last week because me and Tina were guests on the Real Talk podcast with Jesse and Philanda. That is on our page, and if you want to go back and look at that, you can go look at that episode. We wanted to get on this weekend since we missed you all last weekend. And we do this wrap up predominantly to give a chance for people who work during the week to choose being able to join us on the program on Thursdays and Mondays and Wednesdays. And so we wanted to definitely get on this weekend to do this program and to kind of cover some of the things that we talk about during the week and give you another opportunity to opine and talk about some of the things that we covered. This is a network that tries very hard to share knowledge and understanding, provide you with different avenues to help you in your day-to-day walk. So do appreciate everyone who has been a part of our network and our consistent watchers and supporters as we go through and grow more and more over time. So I do appreciate it. We put on programs during the week, and I'm often blown away by the content and the things that we talk about, get into on this program. From Tina being on Mondays, she starts the week and talking about mental health and better ways of living. And she had a great show this past Monday, talking to, probably more on the female side, but actually to everyone, and how we look at things and the physical health of women and things like that, and what they have to, and I can't put it any other different way, have to endure and bear for us, mankind, to continue in an era where we're finding, more and more reasons societally to, I won't say demean, but to definitely diminish the importance of women. Having her show on Adroit Living on Mondays is a great help and a blessing, because it definitely tries to address, and within an hour. And it's always hard. We do, one of the things about Erudition is because we do so many different programs, we have an hour that we try to give to these programs, to give our time and our effort to provide, the people. out here with information and knowledge and sources and places and things to reach out to help you in your day-to-day life. And I don't want it to be said that those are easy things to do. They are not. We are people too. We have schedules. We have things. We have things that are going on in our lives, and to take that time every week, you know, whether we're talking about women's sexuality, whether we're talking about with the boys, how society deals with its games, its movies, and how they look at things, rather it's on Thursday where I'm on and I'm talking about um, history and things like that. It's so important to have these conversations and to give people the opportunity um, to opine, to talk about what is going on, and having you all who are consistent with us, consistent viewers and supporters is so important. And I don't want to belittle that. Um, Sean Anthony, good to see you. Happy that you're here. Eric, good to see you. Good to see you. As I said, you know, this program is a wrap up. If you missed something, I want to give you an opportunity. I have had people who have sent me messages, and some of them have come on some of these weekend wrap ups and say, "Hey, man, I'm busy during the time that you're on, or I'm busy during the time that your wife or the boys are on." And I really, you know, had some questions, and we always encourage you to go back to those episodes and um, click, right? Click on and leave a comment. We still look at those comments. You can go to our Erudition Network Facebook page and you can leave a comment there. In the YouTube comments, drop something in there, right? Um, Send somebody a message, have them, if there's a question that someone gave you that you can't answer on some of the subjects that we cover, feel free to drop that in there and tag them in it. And we will definitely answer either in the comments or we will answer um, live during an actual session. We look at those things and we encourage Teen Alphas often encourages their audience to go back and watch the programs 2 or 3 times. If you miss something or something doesn't quite hit you, because you know we're busy and sometimes we're watching but we're listening and not necessarily watching at the same time. So if you need to do that, please feel free to do that. The boys, you know, and typically I would try to have some of them on here, but as I said, things come up, people are doing things. But the boys had a interesting Erudition Generations this week, where they discussed um, the ideas of movies and um, amongst other things. Um, they are trying to expand their subject matter, so they went uh, really in depth into films and revisions and how that affects um, the way people go view films. It's an interesting subject and not want to be belittled, because I will tell you, as someone who studied the art of film, um, visual affects things, story affects things. People will stand in line around the block to watch a Star Wars film just coming out, to get their first seats at a Star Wars film historically, in times where they wouldn't stand up for, you know, protest or picketing or equal rights. And so the feeling, the emotion, uh, what you get from film is huge, and it is not something that people should willy-nilly talk about. And so I thought they had a really good program on Wednesday and having those discussions, because they wanted to let people understand this affects people. People get viscerally upset when films deviate from what they were about to take on political social commentary. When they detract from the story to appease a section of their fandom as opposed to just telling um, their story. And that's a problem, right? That can become a major problem. Sean Anthony said, yeah, not to mention that the Star Wars rant compliments of my brother. Well, here's the thing. That shows what I'm talking about, Sean Anthony, the idea of passion, right? Um, when you watch something and it connects with you, and then it is violated, it does not, someone goes in and adds some things to it that have nothing to do with the story, um, it can upset you. It can upset you. You know, narratives are what they are. Whether you're reading a story, whether you're um, listening to an audio book, whether you're watching a film, narrative is a powerful, powerful, powerful tool. And, you know, it can affect. So, yes, he may have went on a rant, as you say, during the program, but it was a rant, a passionate rant that was about the fact of how he felt and how he had viewed that people had gotten upset what was violated or what they perceived to be violated in the Star Wars films. So I get it. I get it. It's an emotional thing. For on Thursday, for my part, I did not know, and I typically have some idea what we were going to talk about. And I appreciate Tyson and Tina was on, um, and if I miss anyone, please forgive me. Different individuals came on to ask questions, um, because I like for us to remember that when we do these shows, they're interactive, so um, the intention can change once we get on, once we start talking. Um, Things that the audience says and the questions that you all have can change the whole um, target of where we're going. So I get it. I get it. But we got to talking about nuclear energy. We got to talking about the effects of the nuclear science as it has, applied to our world. Um, and I thought it was a really good conversation to talk about, right? We tend to forget that we act as if nuclear energy was something that miraculously came into the attention during World War II, and we forget that scientists were talking about nuclear energy, nuclear weapons became the focus, but nuclear energy was something that was um, talked about as early as the late 1890s. Um, so when we consider that, right, that the German physicists were talking about this in 1895 and how they could use it um, in different ways. When we think about Tesla and the idea of using X-rays, um, when you look at the Curies, right, Marie and Pierre Curie, when they discovered polonium and radium in 1898. There are so many things that happened even before World War II. And because of these things, we are where we are. You know, it was at one point people saw the idea of the neutron and everything as something positive, something that could be used, right, to see things in a different way. You know, Irene Curie, when she would radiate herself, right? She radiated herself with the idea of trying to be able to see her bones and see under the skin. Now, the effects of that and the early tests of that were dangerous, and obviously it caused um, horrible injury to her, leading to death. But um, the science was there. I watched 3 Mile Island not that long ago. It's something that we live with, and I appreciate it. I think Tina was the one that initiated the conversation about it, and why we don't use other things. Nuclear energy is a clean energy. It has its benefits if it is properly used, stored. Um, but too often in history, we have failed to do that. Too often in history, we have taken the approach to being violent more than we have in trying to use the discovery of it to benefit us. And then once we started to mess around with fission and how we could utilize that, you put this science in the hands of imperialistic minds. And it should be said, because there's a movie coming out soon, that Oppenheimer, even after the conclusion of the bomb, Oppenheimer warned that this was not something that we should think is a great thing, right? It's not something that we should praise because it could split this world apart. It can actually lead to extinction of human beings. And so I thought that having that discussion this week was a really, really good discussion. So I ask you to go back, watch that, interact. So we talked about that, Eric, and we talked about the Navy cleanup, and we talked about the people who went to go help with that cleanup, and how many people were affected by it and have been multiple different cancers, illnesses related to the meltdown in Japan. And therein lies the problem. Nuclear energy is such a powerful thing, and if not properly upkeep is not proper, and people don't focus and realize, it can and it will cause a calamity, a problem. And not too much thought has been thought on how do we do that, safeguard that, as we keep trying to expand the research. I'm not a nuclear scientist to tell you, but I can just tell you historically that every time that we've had meltdowns and issues, it's typically because people have become very complacent in how things are done and how things happen. And Americans also take it for granted with these nuclear power plants, with our nuclear ships, with our weapons. We sometimes take these things for granted. And it takes a catastrophe, something horrible to happen before it becomes attention grabbing. And then only then it becomes a story. And most people don't really know how it's going to affect the world in its entirety, right? In its entirety. So we had a really great discussion on that on Thursday that allowed us to get into some of that history. Please go back and watch that and get a better understanding. And if you have any questions after you watch that program, leave us a question. Or if you have a question now and you are here on the live, you can do that also for this wrap up, because that is what it is for. I welcome your questions and I welcome your participation in these sessions, because you may bring a different perspective than what I have or has been shared by others. So it's a good thing. I think it can be used. However, this can't be an industry where the regulators get paid off by the industry in order to regulate. So you're saying that maybe it should be something that is independently regulated, or deregulate it. But the problem with deregulation is that we run into another type of complacency where people do not put it under an order of what should be done, and folks do whatever they're going to do. We do that with so many other industries. Deregulate. So it's so much money in nuclear energy, and it always has been, and it's such a safeguarded thing. You know, we look at, we talked about it, these other countries who simply want nuclear energy, and we assume automatically that they want to build weapons. And it's hypocritical, because the only nation that is historically documented to have dropped a nuclear weapon during a time of war is America, who is the loudest proponent out here saying no one else should have nuclear energy, or no one else should be using nuclear weapons, or no one should have nukes. And that's crazy, right? I'm not saying that I want everybody to have nuclear weapons, but I do think that America waves this heavy stick with a very, very dubious history. We have done some things, Russians too, but the fear of Russia, other nations sharing nuclear weapons creates a fear, which is something that Oppenheimer tried to talk about in the 40s, right? He tried to advocate. He tried to advocate against the use of nuclear weapons. Once you see the destruction, right, you will understand what it will do. And when Oppenheimer went in to go talk to Secretary of War at the time, Henry Stimson, he told him. And he told him that, listen, once we start down this science, it's going to become larger and more easy to do over time. And even when Japan surrendered, you had people like Douglas MacArthur, who simply saw nuclear weapons as just another tool in the warmongers' ability. So by the time Japan had surrendered, and by the time, or I'd say around 1940, 45, maybe going into 46, Oppenheimer had stepped away from helping the government and became a very big advocate of saying, stop, we should not do this. And most people in history don't remember that there was a man named Norris Bradbury who took over. And he held that position for 25 years after Oppenheimer stepped down. Bradbury was one of the major proponents of where we are right now in our nuclear weaponry. And so therein lies the problem. When you get as you were saying, Eric, a yes man, right, into the situation, and his only desire is to get as many weapons and as many things as he can get for America, and never recognized truly what he was doing and how he was harming the world, to such a point where they even made Oppenheimer to be a traitor. It's like the train derailment in Ohio. Lobbyists lobby our officials for deregulation, making these industries unsafe because companies will put safety aside to profit. And that is what we're talking about. People forget that when Eisenhower was leaving the presidency, He warned against these things. He warned against the military-industrial complex. He warned about how we were spending so much money to gain weapons in a race of weapons, and nuclear weapons being at the forefront. How many can we build? How many can we build? Can we build more than Russia? Can Russia build more than us? The communist threat that they saw. And when Russia, by clandestine means, went and got the science for nuclear weapons to make their own, how Truman freaked out and told the American people, right? So now the idea became, we're going to push this further. We're going to be better than the other superpower. We're going to be stronger. We're going to make more. And that's a problem, because there were people in his ear. There were people around him that were telling men who were not men of science, build, 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 build. People have died because of nuclear bomb testing, but we kept doing it. And the men who knew, right? The men who knew were ignored. So by the time we got around to the mid-50s, when Eisenhower was still, I think, a little bit oblivious, and he gave his, people don't remember this speech, his Atoms for Peace speech. And he said he was going to peacefully share nuclear technology and materials and know-how to allied countries. So there is a long history behind that. I see arguments on mainstream media saying that we can win a nuclear war. I'm not sure what winning a nuclear war would look like, but I would imagine it would, hard to tell who the winner is. I don't think you can win a nuclear war. There are hardcore advocates who have been around since the beginning of nuclear warfare science who have always argued that point, Eric, and they've always said that, oh, well, we could win that war. The one who has the most weapons will win the war. Well, that's pretty ignorant, because you really never know how many, you can think you know how many weapons that these other countries have, just like they'll never know how many weapons we actually have. And once you start to bombard this world with nuclear energy, there are people who make those statements who have no idea and are not rational in science, at an atomic level, what that's doing. If you make holes in the coverage of this planet, the things that protect our environment from the radiation of the sun, because you're blowing and bombarding the bottom, the underlying nature of the atmosphere with nuclear energy, and it's being bombarded again from the other side, how long can that, just on a general scientific understanding, how long can the planet endure that? And who wins if you strip away that protection that the solar flares that hit this planet daily and bombard us with energy? If you hit this planet with that from both sides, above and under, what is that going to do? And so those who are left under the cloud of this, can you really say you won? Can you really say that you survived? You know, we talked a little bit about Toba, the Toba volcano. And so I think it's crazy. I like the third history topic because it's a hot topic, trying history with current events so we can see war options in our lifetime. Unfortunately, my sweet, there are so many different ways that they're waging war and trying to find even other ways that are probably even more destructive. Um, Dropping things from space onto the planet. Different ways. I truly believe that man wants to annihilate himself. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because we're not really taught science, history, any of these things in an effective way. And that's the saddest part about all of this. You know, when we were talking about um, penetrating missiles that hit the ground and go through the ground before they explode, right? There is nothing. Yeah, I've heard that too, Eric. I see your comment. Exactly. I keep hearing them term tactical nuke. What is that? Using a nuke anywhere will have a negative effect on the entire region, and if not the world. They say tactical if it can't be contained. If you shoot a nuclear weapon under the ground with piercing technology and it goes in, it takes speed and it goes into a certain depth and it explodes. It's going to affect things. And we talked about this, fault lines, right? The stratified underbottom of the world. If you pierce parts of the United States with nuclear weapons, you could set off a cataclysmic world-killing situation at a supervolcano like Yellowstone. So, and there are other places on the planet just as dangerous. But most human beings, let's just say Americans, they are fodder. There's no way you can run from a missile that can travel from, say, Europe to the Americas in under 10 minutes. Where are you running to? You can't get out of your neighborhood in 10 minutes. So the idea, we've gotten out of the mutual assured destruction mentality that says, hey, well, we'll have these things, but we won't kill each other because we know we'll destroy each other. So now people, and this is the problem with misinformation, lies, conjecture, sophistry, because what happens is you start to make up scenarios where you think you can win. You tell yourself you can win. If ancient man can kill 7,000 people with swords, spears, and shields, what do you think? If they can kill 7,000 people in one day, talking about Hannibal, man has always been prone to destruction. Now I can wipe out millions, if not billions of people in a day. And those who I don't kill in the nuclear onslaught, they're going to sit here after that and they're going to suffer. And I think Sean Anthony, during Thursday's broadcast, brought up several situations like that. Or Teddy, one or the other. But as I said, I think that that was a great subject that we got into this week. It was not a planned subject by any means. It was something that was asked. I believe Tina asked it, and we went on from there. So it was pretty good to have that discussion. I tell you guys with this wrap up, I don't try to be on here for a whole hour. It is just that. It's to encourage you to ask questions and to go on and participate. If you have questions right then and now. But I won't belabor you for an hour if it is not needed. I really just like to get on here and invite the family to get on here so we can have these conversations. And if you are a person that weren't able to join us, give you the opportunity to get some of your questions answered live in a live stream. So I think it's a good thing for us to do. And if we don't do it, we do it basically throughout the week. We're here every week. Monday, Tina will be back on, God willing, for Adroit Living. The boys will be back on Wednesday for Erudition Generation. And I will be back on, God willing, for our interactive history session on Thursday as we try to increase more programs. But right now, those are the main three that are on. And I think you get 3 opportunities during the week to interact with us and to talk to us and to pick the brain and learn together and all of those things. So if you all don't have any further questions or concerns or things that's just been itching on you to ask, I'm going to give it about another 4 more minutes, and then I'm gonna sign on off of here. But I'll give you all the opportunity for the 2 people I still see online that I see. I don't know has more on to give you that chance to ask whatever question you will before we close down this wrap up. Oh, that'd be cool. I'm happy if you can get on their show, have a good discussion. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Well, I guess y'all don't have anything, and that's okay. That's all good. All right. Well, like I said, we'll be back with you all next week. Thank you for those who attended tonight. We'll be back, as I said, probably next Saturday to do another wrap up. But I thank you for your time, and please feel free to join us next week. Invite a friend to watch. Invite an enemy. Don't care. Somebody who you have a discussion with, or you think can gain some understanding or knowledge from what Erudition is providing. We welcome it on all shows to have those discussions. All right. Until the next time, you all have a blessed Sunday tomorrow and have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you.